Schwarzberg, and together with Nick Rogo, Roberto Valdovinos, Gustav Kahn, we've organized this wonderful day of events with Professor Bernard Stiegler. We're very happy to have you here. The day started with a lunchtime lecture at the Center for Justice, and then we had a small seminar with invited colleagues from around New York. So thank you for your stamina as well, because I'm certainly very tired, so thank you. So all of us four organizers are graduate students and affiliates of the Institute for Comparative Literature and Society at Columbia University, where we all met and from which this event emerged. So it's perhaps not surprising that we should have coalesced around a thinker as rich and diverse as Professor Stiegler, because his work allows us, coming from four different disciplines, architecture, art history, literature, and anthropology, to think together. So we all know that the opportunities for such an act today, to think together, appear more abundant than ever, and yet such opportunities also appear more fragile than ever. Indeed, we might say that we don't really have a choice, as our very sociality itself has so clearly become the productive grounds on which innovation, technological innovation, continues to accelerate the hyper-consumer society. Professor Stiegler's work is, in this context, an absolutely fundamental anchor for thinking this apparent contradiction, the increasingly double, deadly injunction, pharmacological, to use Stiegler's language, to imperatively think together today. His work, seamlessly combining technology, philosophy, aesthetics, psychology, and political economy, amongst other subjects, on which he has published some 30 books, is a unique tool to think both the urgent and timeless matters that draw us together. A social activist, as well as a philosopher, Professor Stiegler has taught at the Collège International de Philosophie in Paris, where he also directs the Institute of Research and Innovation at the Centre Georges Pompidou. He is president of the Hyper-industrialization Association, which researches the role of technology for proposing a political economy beyond capitalism. We're very happy and grateful to have you here today. Thank you. Also joining us tonight, we have another distinguished guest, our very own Professor Reinhold Martin, who will respond to Professor Stiegler after his talk. Reinhold Martin is Professor of Architecture in the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation at Columbia University, where he directs the Temple Hoyne-Buell Center for the Study of American Architecture, and is also a member of the Committee on Global Thought. Thank you for being here, Professor Martin. So finally, we also have a very, very long list of co-sponsors that made this event possible, and we would like to thank them. So, in order, thank you to the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, the Institute for Comparative Literature and Society, the Heyman Center for the Humanities, Maison Française, the Center for Justice, the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation, the Buell Center, the Department of Latin American and Iberian Cultures, the Center for Contemporary Critical Thought, the Department of Art History and Archaeology, and finally, the Department of French and Romance Philology. So thank you to our co-sponsors. So thank you to all of them, to our distinguished guest and respondent, and to all of you for being here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Bernard Stiegler.
Interest, and I would like also to thank Roberto Valdovinos, who is not there today, but I know that he wanted to organize this meeting, and I wanted to thank him also. I'm very happy to be there once again, and I will talk a little bit about what I call automatic society, and in this context, the possibilities of what I call an art of hypercontrol, following an idea proposed by Deleuze and Gilles Deleuze and Serge Danet at the end of the 80s, concerning cinema, television, etc. 10 years ago, I argued that we have entered what I call hyper-industrial age in this book. That ours is an epoch of great symbolic misery. And that this leads to the structural destruction of desire. That is, it ruins the libidinal economy. Speculative marketing, having become hegemonic, systematically exploits the drives, which are divested of every attachment. It was also a topic of the Vice President of USA, Al Gore, in the book, where he described this destruction of attachment. Symbolic misery derives from what, with Nicolas Donin, when I was at IRCAM, we call the mechanical turn of sensibility, which places the sensual life of the individual under the permanent control of the mass media. The causes of symbolic misery and the destruction of desire are both economic and organological. I use this term in the sense of musicology that I extended to the whole life of humans. It is a matter both of the consumerist model and of those instruments that capture and harness consumer attention, implemented by cultural industries and mass media at the beginning of the 20th century. These instruments, controlled by marketing, bypass and short-circuit the savoir-vivre of consumers, their knowledge of how to live. Consumers are thereby proletarianized, just as producers had been proletarianized in the 19th century by instruments that short-circuited their savoir-faire, their knowledge of how to make and do. This being fully accomplished at the beginning of the 20th century, in production as well as in consumption. This industrial capture of attention also deforms this attention. First, attention is formed through education, via processes of identification, primary and secondary identification in the sense of Freud, which constitute intergenerational relations at the core of which the knowledge of how to live is elaborated. Second, to raise a child is to singularly transmit savoir-vivre, which they will singularly transmit in their turn to his or her comrades, friends, family, and peers, both near and distant. Third, what is formed through all the pathways of education, including teaching, is that which the industrial capture of attention systematically deforms. The economy of desire is formed through processes of identification and trans-individuation, woven in the course of intergenerational relations as the set of capacities to bind the drives by directing them their aims towards social investments. The industrial deformation and direction of attention short-circuits and bypasses processes of identification and trans-individuation. As such, the symbolic misery imposed by consumer capitalism, which amounts to de-symbolization, leads inevitably to to the destruction of the libido economy in the sense of Freud, of the second Freud of 1923. During the second half of the 20th century, there was a continual decrease of the age at which attention was captured in an industrial way. In the 60s, juvenile available brain time constituted the prime target of the audiovisual mass medium. In France, there are so-called peripheral radio stations. But by the end of the century, it was infantile brain time that was being targeted and directed from its affective and social environment via all manner of programs and specialized techniques. The object of desire is desired to the point of inverting the goals of the drives that support it. But this is so only because it does more than just exist. The object of desire consists, and as such infinitizes itself, that is, exceeds all calculation. To desire is to invest in an object and experience its consistency. And hence to destroy desire is to liquidate all attachment and all fidelity, that is, all confidence, without which no economy is possible. And ultimately it is to liquidate all belief, and therefore all credits. The object of desire gives rise to a spontaneous belief in life that presents itself through this object as its extraordinary power. All love is phantasmal in the sense that it gives life to that which is not, to that which is ordinarily not. But because the fantasy of love, and of what had to be called in French aimants, translated by Georges Collins in English, lovers, in Derrida's Politics of Friendship. It is that which grants to civilizations their most durable forms, the literally fantastic sentiments, in which love consists, is the incarnation of knowledge of the extraordinariness of life that constantly surprises life, whereby life invents by going beyond life, and as a pursuit of life by means other than life, through the incessant and ever-increasing profusion and evolution of artificers. This is how I have interpreted the movement of externalization described by André Leroi-Gourhan in order to analyze the process of harmonization as an invention of life by means other than life. That is, as a technological, organological, and pharmacological, in the sense of Socrates, pharmacological evolution that constitutes the human problem of life on Earth, and the responsibility that we have not to evade this problem, which is constantly being remade by technical invention. Love, as all we know, is strictly speaking the experience of artifice. It is essential to fetishize the one we love. And when we stop loving them, we are confronted with the artificiality of the amorous situation, and we are brought brutally back to the ordinariness of quotidian life. 2 or 3 million years ago, life began to pass through the non-living artifice. There first appears what Aristotle referred to as the noetic soul, that is, the soul that loves, as we learn from Diotima. The non-living artifice conserves for life a trace of what in the biological economy that Simon called vital individuation would previously have been lost forever in death. The inventive power of life that amazed the gardener Gilles Clément thus becomes what Paul Valéry described as the life of the mind or of the spirit, which with modernity, capitalism itself becomes the political economy of the spirit, founded on industrial technology that has today become essential to an industry of traces. The privatization of consumers, their desymbolization, their disidentification, and their confinement within drive-based misery subjects all singularities to the calculability that turns the contemporary world into a desert, in which one feels paradoxically and increasingly that as industry innovates more and more, it somehow turns out that life is being invented less and less. A situation that takes to the extreme what Paul Valéry described in 1939, just before the war, as what he called the fall of spirit value. The decline of the state and the hegemony of strategic marketing and financialization were imposed throughout the entire world and in every part of society beginning in the 1980s. Along with these trends came drive-based misery and disinvestment, ruining desire and introducing forms of disbelief, miscreants and discredit that continue to afflict every form of authority, every institution, and every business, eventually leading to the insolvency that the collapse of 2008 exposed for all to see. The current and much more recent hegemony of the industry of traces tries to take control of the drives through automation and automatisms founded on social networks. The drives are, however, ultimately uncontrollable, and hence to try and channel the drive in this way by mathematical algorithms to exert an automated form of social control will in the end do nothing but carry the drives to an extremely dangerous level by disintegrating them, turning them into what Félix Guattari called individuals and not individuals. With the advent of reticular reading and writing, via globally accessible networks that use those web technologies that began to be implemented around 1993, digital technologies have led hyper-industrial societies towards a new stage of privatization. In this new stage, the hyper-industrial age is turned into an era of systemic stupidity. Across networks of tele-action, production centers can be delocalized. Huge markets can be formed and then remotely controlled. Industrial capitalism and financial capitalism can be structurally separated. Electronic financial markets can be continuously interconnected, directing in real time the automatism that are derived from application of mathematics to the finance industry. Processes of automated decision-making can then be functionally tied to the drive-based automatisms that control consumer markets, initially through the mediation of the mass media, and today through the industry of traces that is also known as the data economy, that is, the economy of personal data. Digital automata have succeeded by in bypassing the deliberative function of the mind. And a systemic stupidity has been established between consumers and speculators, functionally based in the drives, and beating each against the other, goes well beyond what Matt Alvesson and André Leroi-Gourhan have called themselves in London functional stupidity. It was published by the Journal of Management of London. It's not leftist discourse. In the last few years, however, and specifically after 2008, a state of generalized stupefaction seems to have arisen that accompanies this systemic petty, this functional stupidity. The resulting stupor is caused by the most recent series of technological shocks that emerged from the digital turn of 1993. The revelation of these shocks and of their major features and consequences has brought about a state that is almost literally that of being disturbed. In particular, in the face of the four horsemen of apocalypse, Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. It's not my expression. It is an expression of an economist, an American specialist of Silicon Valley. And you appear literally to be disintegrated those industrial societies that emerged from the Aufklärung. The result has been what, at a public meeting of ASU studies, we have referred to as what we call net blues, suffered by those who had believed or do believe in the promises of the digital era, including my friends of ASU and myself, among many others. The hyper-industrial societies that have grown out of the ruins of the industrial democracies constitute the third stage of completed proletarianization. In the 19th century, we saw the loss of savoir-faire and the loss of savoir-vivre in the 20th. And in the 21st century, we are witnessing the dawn of the age of the loss of savoir-theoric, academic knowledge, a theoretical knowledge, of theoretical knowledge, as if the cause of our being stand was an absolutely unthinkable development. With the total automatization made possible by digital technology, theories, those most sublime fruits of idealization, identification, as Diotima said, are deemed obsolete. And along with them, scientific method itself. So at least we are told by Chris Anderson in Wired in June 2008. In this paper entitled The End of Theory, the Data Deluge Makes the Scientific Method Obsolete. Founded on the self and auto-production of digital traces, and dominated by automatisms that exploit these traces, hyper-industrial societies are undergoing the proletarianization of theoretical knowledge itself, just as broadcasting analog traces via television resulted in the proletarianization of savoir and through marketing, and just as the submission of the body of the laborer to mechanical traces inscribed in machines result in the privatization of the savoir-faire in the 19th century. Just like the written traces in which Socrates already saw the threat of proletarianization that any externalization of knowledge brings with it, the apparent paradox being that the constitution of knowledge depends on the externalization of knowledge. So too, digital, analog, and mechanical traces are what I call tertiary retention, and I will explain later this term. When Jean Deleuze referred to what he called control society, He was already heralding the arrival of the hyper-industrial age. The destructive capture of attention and desire is what occurs in and through those control societies that Deleuze described in terms of the non-coercive modulation exercised by television and consumers at the end of the 20th century. These societies of control appear at the end of the consumerist epoch, and what they do is make way for the transition to the hyper-industrial epoch. In the automatic society of which Deleuze could hardly have been aware, but which he and Felix Guattari anticipated, in particular when they refer to individuals, control undertakes the mechanical liquidation of discernment from the Greek dokrinon, from krinei, the verb krinei, that has the same root as crisis, decision. Discernment, which Immanuel Kant called understanding, Verstand, has been automatic and automatized as analytical power that has been delegated to algorithms. Algorithms that convey formalized instructions through sensors and actuators, but outside of any intuition in the Kantian sense of this word, that is, outside of any experience, this being the situation that occupies this lesson. 7 years after the collapse of 8 years now, not almost 8 years, the collapse of 2008, 7 years, it is still not clear how best to characterize this end. Crisis, mutation, metamorphosis. All these terms are metaphors. They still fall short of actual thinking. Crisis, which has a long history in Hippocrates, it refers to a decisive turning point in the course of an illness, is also the origin of all critique, of all decision exercised by the doctrinal as the power to judge on the basis of criteria. Mutation is understood today primarily in relation to biology, even if in French to be muté, generally refers in everyday life to being transferred to another person. Metamorphosis is a zoological term that comes from the Greek by way of Ovid. 7 years after this effort, it seems that the prioritization of minds, and more precisely the prioritization of the noetic faculties of theorization, and in this sense of scientific, moral, aesthetic, and political deliberation, combined with the prioritization of sensibility and affect in the 20th century, and with the prioritization of the gestures of the worker in the 19th century, is both a trigger for and the result of this continuing crisis. As a result, no decisions are taken, nor do we arrive at any turning point, any bifurcation, for speaking with Deleuze's words. Whereas all of the toxic aspects that lie at the origin of this crisis continue to be consolidated. When a triggering factor is also an outcome, we find ourselves in a spiral. This spiral can be very fruitful and worthwhile, or it can enclose us, absent new criteria, in a vicious circle that we describe as a downward spiral. A spiral du pied, we say in French, that takes us from bad to well. I believe with Francis Jutan, the director of l'Institut Mines Télécom in Paris, that the post-global states in which we have left the crisis of 2008 means we should refer to it in terms of metamorphosis rather than mutation. What is going on here is not biological, even if biology comes into play via biotechnology and in certain respects in a quasi-proletarianized way. This does not mean that there is no crisis or that we need not take account of the critical labor for which it calls. It means that this critical labor is precisely what this metamorphosis seems to render impossible. Thanks precisely to the fact that it consists above all in the proletarianization of theoretical knowledge, which is critical knowledge. It is for this reason that I propose understanding the enduring nature of this crisis on the basis of the metaphor of the chrysalis. The stupefying situation in which the current experience of automatic society consists establishes a new mental context, stupefaction, within which systematic stupidity undoubtedly proliferates as functional stupidity, drive-based capitalism and industrial populism, but which can also be viewed in relation to a new concern, which, if it is not turned into panic and instead becomes a fertile skepsis, could turn out to be the beginning of a new understanding of the situation and the genesis of a new criteria or categories. This is a question of what I call categorical invention. This new understanding of our intelligence would be that which, inverting the toxic logic of the pharmacon, would give rise to a new hyper-industrial age constituting an automatic society founded on deproletarianization, and which would provide an exit from the chrysalis of noetic hymenoptera, that is, based on the valorization of positive externalities and capacities in Amartya Sen's sense, that is, on contributive economy of pollination. The proletarianization of the gestures of work amounts to the proletarianization of the conditions of the worker subsistence. The proletarianization of sensibility or sensory life and the proletarianization of social relations, all of which are replaced by conditioning, amounts to the proletarianization of the conditions of the citizen's existence. The proletarianization of minds or spirits, that is, of the noetic faculties enabling theorization and deliberation, is the proletarianization of the conditions of scientific consistency, including the human and social sciences. In the hyper-industrial stage, hypercontrol is established through a process of generalized automatization. It thus represents a step beyond the control through modulation discovered and analyzed by Deleuze at the end of the 20th century. Now, the noetic faculties of theorization and deliberation are short-circuited by the current operator of proletarianization, that is, which is digital tertiary retention or mnemotechnical artifact. Just as analog tertiary retention was in the 20th century the operator of proletarianization of savoir-faire, and just as mechanical tertiary retention was in the 19th century the operator of the proletarianization of savoir-faire. By artificially retaining something through the material and spatial copying of amnesic and temporal element, tertiary retention modifies the relations between the psychic retention of perception that Husserl referred to as primary retentions and the psychic retentions of memory that he called secondary retentions. Over time, tertiary retention evolves, and this leads to modifications of the play between primary retentions and secondary retentions, resulting in processes of transindividuation that are each time specific, that is, specific epochs of what Simon called the trans-individual. In the course of processes of trans-individuation founded on successive epochs of tertiary retention, shared meanings are formed by psychic individuals who thereby constitute collective individuals and what we call societies. The meanings formed during trans-individuation processes and shared by psychic individuals within collective individuals of all kinds constitute the trans-individual as a set of collective secondary retentions through which collective pretensions and desire then are formed, that is, the expectations that typify that epoch. If, according to the Chris Anderson article previously referred to, so-called big data heralds the end of theory, big data technology designating what is also called high-performance computing, carried out on massive amounts of data, whereby the treatment of data in the form of digital tertiary retentions occurs in real time, at the speed of light, or 2/3 of the speed of light, and on a global scale, and at the level of billions of gigabytes of data operating through data capture systems that are located everywhere on the planet and in almost every relational system that constitutes a society. It is because digital tertiary retention and the algorithms that allow it to be both produced and exploited, thereby also make it possible for reason as a synthetic faculty to be short-circuited, thanks to the extremely high speeds at which this automatic analytic faculty of understanding is capable to operate. As you know, Immanuel Kant said that understanding without reason is dangerous. Privatization is a fact. Is it inevitable or unavoidable? Chris Anderson claims it is, like Nicholas Carr, who suggests in less joyful terms that the destruction of attention is fatal. I hold the contrary position. The fact of proletarianization is caused by the digital, which, like every new form of tertiary retention, constitutes a new age of the pharmacon. It is inevitable that this pharmacon will have toxic effects if new therapies, new therapeutics are not prescribed. Such prescriptions are the responsibility of the scientific world, the artistic world, the legal world, the world of the life of the spirit in general. Our world, it's our responsibility, and it's the responsibility of the world of citizens. And in the first place, of those who claim to represent them, the political personnel. Much courage is required. It is a struggle that must face up against countless interests, including those who partly suffer from this toxicity and partly fear it. It is this period of suffering that constitutes the stage of the crisis. All tertiary retention is a pharmacon in that, instead of creating new transindividual arrangements between psychic and collective primary retentions and secondary retentions, and therefore between retentions and pretension, that is, the expectations through which objects of attention appear, and as such sources of desire, which constitute new attentional forms, new circuits of transindividuation, new meanings, and new capabilities of bringing about the horizon of meaning that are consistencies. Instead of that, this pharmacon can, on the contrary, substitute itself for psychic and collective retentions insofar as the latter can produce significance and meaning only insofar as they are individuated by all and shared on the basis of psychic individuation processes, through processes of social transindividuation that create relationships of solidarity on which can be built durably and intergenerationally social systems. It is always possible for a pharmacon to short-circuit the circuits of transindividuation of which it is nevertheless a condition. And even though it is this pharmacon that makes it possible for psychic individuals, through their psychic retentions, to express themselves, to form collective individuals founded on these traces and these facilitations, that is, on the secondary retentions and collective retentions emerging from this pharmacology. Generally, however, a new pharmacon may start out by short-circuiting the psychosocial process. But the short-circuiting of psychic and collective individuation that is being caused today by automatized transindividuation processes, based on automation in real time and occurring on an immense scale, requires detailed analysis capable of taking account of the remarkable novelty of the digital pharmacon. To achieve socialization, that is a collective individuation, every new pharmacon, in this sense a new form of tertiary retention, always requires the formation of new knowledge, which always means new therapies or therapeutics for this new pharmacon, through which are constituted new ways of doing things and reasons to things, to live and to think, that is, to project consistencies, which constitute at the same time new forms of existence and ultimately new conditions of subsistence. This new knowledge is a result of what I call the second moment of the epochal redoubling, that is, the second moment of the technological shock that is always provoked whenever a new form of tertiary retention appears. If Chris Anderson can claim that the contemporary fact of privatization is insurmountable, which is to claim that there is therefore no way to bring about its second moment, the reason lies in another fact. Chris Anderson himself happens to be a businessman who defends an ultra-liberal, ultra-libertarian perspective. He remains faithful to the ultra-liberalism implemented in all industrial democracies after the conservative revolution that occurred at the beginning of the 1980s. A revolution that short-circuited processes of individuation via the analog mass media, creating what Deleuze described as societies of control. For Chris Anderson, and as for us, and as for the global economy, the problem is that the development, or rather the becoming, that leads to this stage of privatization is inherently entropic. It depletes the resources that it exploits, which in this case are psychic individuals and collective individuals. It leads, in the strict sense of the term, to their disintegration. In automatic society, those digital networks that are referred to as social networks channel such expressions by submitting them to mandatory protocols, to which psychic individuals bend because they are drawn to do so by the so-called network effect, which with the addition of social networking becomes an automated herd effect, that is a highly mimetic situation, and one that constitutes a new form of artificial group in the sense given to this phrase by Sigmund Freud. 10 years ago, I compared TV or radio programs and channels to the constitution of artificial and conventional crafts, such they are analyzed by Freud, for which he gives the example of army and judge. The constitution of crowds and the condition under which they can take shape are the subject of analysis by Gustave Le Bon, as you know, on which Freud commented at length. I quote Le Bon, excuse me. The most striking peculiarity pretended by the psychological crowd, Basel, German, of Freud, is the following. Whoever be the individual that composes it, however like or unlike be their mode of life, their occupations, their character, or their intelligence, the fact that they have been transformed into a crowd puts them in possession of a sort of collective mind, which makes them feel, think, and act in a manner quite different from that in which each individual of them would feel, think, and act were he in a state of isolation. There are certain ideas and feelings which do not come into being or do not transform themselves into acts, except in the case of individuals forming a crowd. The psychological group is a provisional being form of heterogeneous elements, which for a moment are combined exactly as the cells which constitute a living body formed by their reunion, a new being which displays characteristics very different from those possessed by each of the cells singly. On the basis of this analysis by Gustave Le Bon, Freud showed that there are also artificial crowds, which he analyzes through the example of the church and the army then. The program industry is too, however, also form every single day, and specifically through mass broadcast of programs, such artificial groups. The latter become as masons, and Freud refers precisely to Mason's psychology, to psychology of Mason, the permanent everyday mode of being of industrial democracies, which are at the same time what I call industrial telecracies. Generated by digital tertiary retention, net-connected artificial groups constitute an economy of crowdsourcing that must be understood in manifold ways, of which the so-called cognitaria would be one dimension. Big data is one very large component of those technologies that exploits the potential of crowdsourcing in its various forms, of which social engineering is a major element. Through the network effect, through artificial groups that the network effect allows to be created, such as the billions of psychic individuals who are now available. And through crowdsourcing that allows these groups to be exploited, including through the use of big data, it is possible, first, to stimulate the production and auto-capture by individuals of those tertiary retentions we call personal data, which spatialize their psycho-social temporalities. Second, to intervene by circulating this personal data at the speed of light, or two-thirds of light, in the processes of transindividuation that are woven through circuits which are formed automatically and automatically. And third, through these circuits and through collective secondary retentions that form automatically and no longer transindividually, to intervene in return almost immediately in psychic secondary retentions, which is also to say in pretensions, expectations, and ultimately in personal behavior. It becomes possible to remotely control, to teleguide, one by one, each of the members of the network. This is what is referred to as personalization. The internet is a pharmacon that can thus become a technique of hyper-industrial control and social disintegration, unless there is a new politics of individuation, that is, unless attention is formed through a specific tertiary retention that make possible a new technical milieu, every associated milieu beginning with language, it will inevitably become a cause of dissociation and not association. externalization. The hyper-industrial situation takes what Deleuze called society of control from the modulation by the mass media to a stage of hyper-control, generated by self-produced personal data, self-collected and self-published by people themselves, whether knowingly or otherwise, and exploited by applying high-performance computing on the massive data sets. This automated modulation establishes what Thomas Perls and André Leroi-Gourhan have called algorithmic governmentality, using the concept of Michel Foucault. The digital allows all technological automatisms to be unified: mechanical, electromechanical, photoelectrical, electronic, and so on, by implanting the producers into the consumer, and through the production of all manners of sensors, actuators, and related software. But the truly unprecedented aspect of digital unification is that it allows articulations between all these automatisms: technological, social, psychic, and biological. And this is the main point of neuromarketing and neuroeconomics. This integration, however, leads inevitably to total robotization. But it is not just public authority, social and educational systems, intergenerational relations, and psychic structure that find themselves disintegrated for mass market to be formed, and for all the commodities secreted by the consumer system to be absorbed, wages needed to be distributed so as to supply purchasing power. But it is this very economic system that has disintegrated and that is becoming functionally insolvent. All of this can seem utterly overwhelming and hopeless. Is it nevertheless possible to invent from out of this state of fact, that is total disintegration, an arts of hyper-control, for example, by reactualizing Deleuze's report on his letter to Serge Dallet, title of which was Optimism, Pessimism, and Trouble, of the possibility and the necessity of an art of control. I quote here Deleuze: "Television is the form in which the new powers of control become immediate and direct. To get to the heart of the confrontation, we will almost have to ask whether this control might be inverted, harnessed by the supplementary function opposed to power, to invent an art of control that would be like a new form of resistance." Unquote. Is the question to invent or to resist? I will return to this hesitation. It is thus a matter of knowing where such a therapeutic might come from and how it might be quasi-causal in the sense given by Gilbert to this expression, where he shows that the accident can and must become the necessity if I can become its quasi-causality. I argue that if this quasi, you say quasi or quasi? Quasi, two? Quasi. Quasi-causality is indeed what can and must emerge from a new history of art, from, in other words, a new individuation of art, such that art should again become an art, that is, a technique. This would be possible only if these arts were also and immediately an invention in the juridical field, which is also to say the political field, the philosophical field, and the scientific and economic fields. Not that the question did not arise in these terms in the age of the letter to Serge Dallet by Deleuze, not in these terms. Nevertheless, the question being posed here is that of the relations between micropolitics and macropolitics. We continue a discussion we had during the seminar. And these are the terms by Deleuze and Guattari themselves. Art has a distinct role to play with respect to invention in relation to the organological in general. But this is far from clear in Deleuze himself, who thinks this art of control much more in terms of resistance than of invention, presuming that invention is always in some way or another organological, that is, always consists in inventing technically or technologically and not just artistically. An art of control, of the kind, I will finish now, of the kind envisaged by Deleuze, or of hypercontrol, which I attempt to describe, would not be self-sufficient, except by hearing and making heard or reheard the art in art. As in the great epochs of artistic or spiritual art, an art of hypercontrol would need to be inseparable from a juridical, philosophical, scientific. Excuse me, I repeat the same paragraph, I'm sorry. The question of such an art is that of a therapeutic, for which art would be a primary, obviously inaugurating element, yet inherently insufficient. It is the same, I'm sorry, I don't understand what I did. The pharmacological character of the digital age has become more or less clear to those who belong to it, resulting what I am calling neighborhoods. The state of fact constituted by this new age of tertiarization has failed to provide a new state of law. On the contrary, it has liquidated the rule of law as produced by the retentional systems of the bygone epoch. Property law, for example, has been directly challenged by activists through their practices in relation to free software and through reflecting on the commons, including some young artists who are attempting to devise a new economic and political framework for their thinking. These questions must, however, be seen as part of an epistemic and epistemological transition from fact to law or to right, and by canonical reference to apodictic experience, projecting law beyond fact. The passage from fact to right or to law is firstly a matter of discovering in facts the necessity of interpreting them, that is, of projecting beyond facts themselves, but also on the basis of facts that are not themselves self-sufficient, onto another plane towards which they become, that of consistency through which and in which we must believe, for speaking with Deleuze, because Deleuze in the second volume of Cinema says we must believe in this world. This other plane is the one of negantropy. If we are now living in the Anthropocene, the state of fact is not sustainable. We must pass to a state of law or right, in which negantropy becomes the criteria of all types of value, the value of value. And this is why we must enter to what I call the Neganthropocene. The context of the task of thinking conceived as therapeutic is one in which automatisms of all kinds are being technologically integrated by digital automatisms. The unique and very specific aspect of this situation is the way that digital tertiary retention succeeds in totally rearranging assemblages or montages of psychic and collective retentions and potentials. The challenge is to invert this situation by having an art of hypercontrol instead, which towards a new idea of disautomatization that would arise from of today's disintegrating automatization. Thank you very much for attention.